The search for Jack O'Sullivan continues. His mum, Catherine, is joining us now alongside criminologist David Wilson. Thank you so much, Catherine. I'm sorry that we're meeting under these circumstances. Take us back to that night, and I know it's hard, to watch that VT2, but take us back to that night when Jack went missing.
Well, Jack went out to a birthday party. He was in two minds whether he was actually going to go. It was with relatively new friends, so I encouraged him and said, you know, go on, you know, meet some new people. And, you know, nothing strange to think about. It was quite late that he went out, met some people in a pub for a drink beforehand, and then went on to this birthday party. He was in communication with me throughout some of the evening, just because I wasn't sure if he was going to stay out late or if he needed to be picked up.
Like any 22-year-old.
Yeah.
That's kind of classic behaviour.
Yeah, but Jack is very good at communicating. So, you know, we made our final arrangements when he said everything was fine, and he did intend to stay out a bit later than he'd planned, and he was going to get a taxi. So just told me to go to bed, basically, and don't wait up for him.
So then when did you first realise he was missing, and then when did you get in touch with the police?
So it was at 5:25. I just woke with a bit of a start and just had a sense that something was wrong.
Mother's instinct.
Yeah, so I went straight into his room, and his light was on because I'd left it on, bed unslept in, and I just immediately had a bad feeling. So I started texting, WhatsApping, calling him, and I looked at my phone and it placed him at an address which was fairly close to where I know he'd been. But obviously there was no response. He wasn't picking up and not replying to my messages. So I woke my husband and said, I really think there's a problem and I want to go where my phone tells me Jack is. And that's what we did. So within 20 minutes, we were there.
I mean, it's such a unique situation because, does your mind go straight to there's a problem, or does your mind go, he's probably stayed out a little bit longer, he's bumped into somebody else? Yeah. You know, it seems sort of relatively normal, but you had that hunch, didn't you?
Yes, because Jack had never done that before. You know, if he'd gone out, he would always get home. And if he couldn't get home, he'd have no issue with texting or calling us to say he was stuck.
So at what point do you contact the police?
Well, we initially contacted the police about 7 o'clock in the morning after we'd been out for an hour looking around. And we were told that was not really how to go about a missing person and to phone back in about 12 hours. But we got to 11 o'clock. And I was frantic. I really was. So we went through a procedure of, you know, a missing persons report on the phone. And then by the mid-afternoon, a policeman had come to the house to take a statement from us.
So tell us about the events then, as best you can, because they did start looking for him, and then obviously you start to look into the CCTV, right?
Well, initially, we didn't know what information was out there. We had a phone call later on that night from the police telling us that they had CCTV, which they believed to be Jack. Wasn't confirmed, but they felt very strongly that it was Jack. Said he was in close proximity to the river, and they had drawn an assumption that he must have fallen in. And they said, based on statistics, they were telling us that, that 85% of young men on a night out who've been drinking, you know, been clubbing, partying or whatever, and they're in that sort of area, would end up in water. And so they told us they had some image which they believed was Jack. So that's what we sort of had to face, and we were distraught as a family, absolutely distraught. We didn't go to bed, we just sat in disbelief. But it was only the next day when somebody came to the house with a set of keys that had been found. And he was another policeman in charge of the search on the ground, and said, oh, no, you can't take that piece of footage. We don't even know if it's a person. And we're more inclined to think it's the railings.
They must be, I mean, racked with, like, uncertainty and
confusion.
worry when you get
Yeah,
that.
at that point, we just didn't know what to think and what to do. So, you know, we move on. A few days pass and more CCTV is now being obtained and gathered. And it is now starting to plot Jack's route, you know, the journey that they can see him making. They show us because just to confirm that we are happy that this is Jack now. But for a long time, it only placed him at a certain point. And then many weeks later, because I really requested to see the CCTV myself.
Of course.
And it was a battle, but the police did release it to us. And on that CCTV, I actually found Jack on a different part, walking, sort of heading back into town.
So you found a different sighting to than the police had found?
Yes.
Just as a statement from the police, we've kept an open mind throughout this investigation. Our inquiries have been led by the evidence. Each scenario relating to what may have happened to Jack has been carefully considered. We remain in weekly contact with the family to update the progress of our investigation. That's from Avon and Somerset Police. Where are we now?
Well, we're 151 days since Jack's been home. And we are doing everything in our power to continue looking for him, trying to seek information. We don't have a lot of contact with the police anymore. We have a weekly email correspondence with them. We believe it's still an ongoing investigation. And we are being supported by, we have a private investigator. We have a gentleman called Charlie Hedges, who's a missing persons expert, who's been incredibly kind and supportive in helping us sort of go forward. And we have, you know, from social media, which is not my thing, not my world at all, but we've had so much support. Somebody set up a page and it's escalating. And we are getting offers of help and continued support.
And you're hoping this will jog someone's memory?
Yes. I mean, you know, for me, I can see Jack on that last piece of footage. I can see him walking in a straight line with purpose. And then he's not there anymore. And I can also see so many vehicles driving past. And for me, I can't understand how somebody hasn't seen something.
That there's no other information. David, I want to come to you quickly, because is this something... This, to me, sounds like, I mean, it's like you're living every parent's worst nightmare. You really, really are, Catherine. And for me, it sounds something so kind of otherworldly. Is this people missing and then there are no sighting of that person? How common is this? It's so hard to wrap your head around because you're dealing with so much already as a family, but the confusion and so many unanswered questions.
Sure. And firstly, as Catherine and her husband Alan knows, I hold them in the highest esteem because of everything that they're doing and continuing to fight to find out what's happened to Jack. You're an amazing woman.
You really are.
According to government statistics, according to a charity called Missing People, someone is reported missing in the United Kingdom every 90 seconds. Now, that's almost like 170,000 people reported missing every single year. Thank heavens. 85% of those people are found within 48 hours. And what's interesting is that when they are interviewed as to why did you go missing, did you do this deliberately, or was this, you came to some harm, what people will share is that often a relationship had broken down, they were worried about money, they had mental health issues, and so they were temporarily missing. They deliberately went missing. And again, if children go missing, so often they go missing as part of a custody dispute. So this is an incredibly common phenomenon, and very few people will experience what Catherine and Alan are experiencing, which is that their child is still missing after 48 hours.
And why do some cases get more attention than others? I mean, it just seems so strange.
And again, it's something I've discussed earlier with Catherine, is that this is when that criminological concept of the ideal victim becomes helpful to think about. An ideal victim, somebody who is seen as having legitimate victim status. So that tends to be in gender terms, women as opposed to men. It tends to be younger people as opposed to older people, or it tends to be the very older, elderly person as opposed to a younger person. It tends to be white people as opposed to black people. So the news, because the news is literally the plural of new, will pick up on those cases which have ideal victim status. And of course, you quite rightly mentioned Jay Slater. Some cases get, you know, lots of publicity, other cases don't. And one of the things I've shared earlier with Catherine is that it seemed to me that Jay Slater became part of the mainstream media agenda because his friends were very good at using TikTok, Instagram, social media. And that in itself, because so many people started following that case, that creates an agenda for the mainstream media to latch on to.
Yeah.
Well, this is an appeal today, isn't it? This is an appeal there, you know, like you say, there are cars that went past. You've seen in that CCTV any sighting. This is putting the spotlight back on Jack today because that needs to continue until you get the answers that you need.
Yes, indeed. I mean, it's unimaginable, really, to be in this position. You see these stories or you hear about them. It's like something from a film. It's like your worst nightmare. And that's the only thing we can do is keep asking the question, really. Because I really strongly feel someone must know something.
Even if they've just seen something that they can't, you know...
And they may not even sort of
realise.
Think it's valid, but it could connect dots that need connecting, you know, so any
what should
information.
they do? If people are jogged by this and the members are jogged by this, what would you say they should get in touch with the police?
Yes, I mean, there is the police number, there's a crime number that's associated with it. We also have a website that has been very kindly set up for information. We have a reward in place for anybody that would provide the information that would directly lead us to finding Jack. And, yeah, so there is an email address attached to that.
Okay.
And there is also an organisation for anybody that's been similarly worried called missingpeople.org, where there's lots of helplines that they can contact through that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine.
And well done.
Appreciate it. Thank you, David.
Thanks for your time.
The statement from Avon and Somerset Police, the complaint from Jack O'Sullivan's family is being looked at by our professional standards department. Detectives have carried out an extensive investigation since he went missing. We fully appreciate the distress and anguish this is having on Jack's family, and our thoughts are very much with them.
Thank you for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload new content every day, so go ahead, hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss out, and we'll see you in the morning.